just to see who else is on there. I just want to make sure everybody participating. All right, so we do have a quorum at this point in time. And I'll go ahead and make the announcement of proxies. Of course, the standard proxy with Mayor Jordan's belonging to Peter. And then we've got another proxy that rolled in where Ryan has turned his over to Tristan. So we've got a quorum of 9 at this point in time. And if anybody else is coming on board, that would be great. And Peter, I will go ahead and turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Joel, and welcome everyone to the Ozark Regional Transit Authority Board Meeting for June 27th. I trust you all are doing well. Hope that's true. Let's go ahead and look at our agenda. It was in the packet that was sent out earlier in the week. Did anyone have any additions or changes to the agenda that they would like to see? If not, could I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make the motion. Second.
A motion and a second. All in support say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? All right, agenda is approved. Let's move on to our public comment period. Do we have anyone from the public with us, either on Zoom or in the room, who'd like to make a comment? I'll start with anyone who's in the room first. Do we have anyone in the room who'd like to make a comment to the board?
No, sir.
All right. What about on Zoom? Do we have anyone on Zoom who'd like to make a comment to the board? If so, feel free to take yourself off mute. All right, I'm not seeing or hearing anyone with comment on Zoom either, so I'll close the public comment period. Next, we'll move on to adoption of the April board meeting minutes. Those minutes were also included in the packet that was sent out earlier in the week. Hopefully everyone has had a chance to review those minutes, and I'll open it up for any discussion, edits, changes relative to the meetings from the April board meeting. All right, without any changes, can I get a motion to approve those board meeting minutes from April?
So moved.
Motion and a second. All in support say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Next is our Ozark Regional Transit FY24 Triennial Review Final Report. And Joel, I'll turn that one over to you.
Yes, sir. On page 5, there's a letter from the Federal Transit Administration addressed to our board chair, and just talking about a little bit of why the triennial review is done, and how they performed it, and what was done, or what any deficiencies were for this period. And I'll go to the third paragraph on page 5. The third paragraph, the triennial review focused on ORT's compliance in 23 areas. No deficiencies were found in 22 of the areas. 2 deficiencies were found with the FTA requirements in the area of procurement. ORT had no repeat deficiencies from the previous fiscal year of 2021 triennial review. Prior to the issuance of the draft report, ORT submitted corrective actions to close the 2 deficiencies. There are no outstanding deficiencies. I just want to say the team here at Ozark Regional Transit does a great job because this is a high stress, high pressure period of time. We had not only auditors in person, but they were also online. We are looking at fine tooth comb, and for us to have the 2 minor deficiencies in the procurement portion, and the minor deficiencies revolved around receipt of vehicles. When the vehicles come in, we have to fill out a formulated report that talks about one is our AHSTO stickers, American Highway Transportation Safety Organization stickers, and the other one is the secondary post-delivery Buy America look. So when we issue orders for vehicles, we make sure that everybody complies with Buy America, and somewhere along the way, it's something that I missed completely, is that there's supposed to be a secondary check to make sure that the manufacturers didn't, during the manufacturing process, substitute parts to change the Buy America percentage from the recommended 70% right now to anything lower than that. So those two reports were completed after the fact. They're supposed to be completed at delivery, but they were completed after the fact, and so those two deficiencies were basically removed. But we did an outstanding job in everything from ADA to maintenance to purchasing to all of our drafts online through the TRAMS program. Just a phenomenal job, and safety. So outstanding work by the entire staff. And this is the final report that sits in front of you.
That's all good news. Does anyone have any questions for Joel or comments on the review report?
I want to say that those two just being the only minor efficiencies, with it really just being a hiccup in timing, that's excellent. So.
Yeah. Thank you. The staff is outstanding here.
Excellent. Joel, are you looking for any kind of board action on this item?
I think it would be appropriate for us to go ahead and accept the final report.
Okay, so
Good.
Motion and a second on acceptance of the triennial review final report. All in support, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we've accepted that report. Thank you all very much. Next, we'll move on to item number 6, which is our SMART grant discussion.
So with the SMART grant, this came to my attention through John McCurdy and Ryan Park a few weeks back. Maybe we should be taking a look at making an application for a SMART grant. Normally in the beginning of the year, you guys go ahead and give me authorization to apply for grants and throughout the year, regardless of really what they look like, federal, state, local, city, that type of thing. But in this case, I need to go ahead and bring it forward to you because we're going to need assistance with this. And we've got Olson, who's going to go ahead and assist us with this. But as with anything in life, there's a fee attached to it. The fee on this one, correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, is $22,000 to make the grant application. The crazy thing about this is our short timing. This grant has to be submitted by midnight on the 12th. And there's a lot of work that's got to be done, not only here at Ozark Regional Transit, but with Olson. And then, of course, I sent out some survey questions to everybody late last week. That those things need to be done. And then we really need to be pushing forward quickly on this. I've already submitted requests to our legislative cadre of Cotton, Boozman, and Womack, and they're going to put together a group letter supporting it. I've put out a letter of support request from RDOT and our new public transit director there, Ms. Cisco. She's going to go ahead and forward that up the chain of command and said that they already support it verbally. And then, of course, we'll look at city by city support letters being sent out to everybody if you guys approve this. And I've got representatives from Olson here and online, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Andy Brewer so that he can do some further discussion on this.
All right, thank you, Joel. Thank you, everyone. Is it okay if I can just either stand here and talk, and hopefully those online can hear?
Yeah.
Okay.
If I could interrupt, this is Blake also with Olson. The version of the screen that's being shared over Zoom is the speaker view or the presenter view. If it's possible to share the actual presented screen, that would be better.
What am I seeing? Oh, this view? Is this the view you need?
That'll work. That'll work.
That will work?
The presenter view, it has like the slide and then the next slide all on the same screen. I don't know if that's
Mhm. That's what's showing.
Oh, okay. Let me see. How's that?
There we go. That works. Thank you.
Perfect. And we can hear you just fine, Andy, so go for it.
Thanks, sir. All right. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Again, my name is Andy Brewer. I'm with Olson. And as you heard, Blake Hansen, my colleague, is joining us online as well as Sean
That's about
Straight.
into the cost of the retailer. That's about 8% of cost of goods.
So somebody needs to mute themselves, please.
So very excited to be here, be part of this conversation and see what we can do to help y'all decide to move forward with this.
Why'd you pick that number? Because it's about right, but
Talking about this SMART grant opportunity.
normally you do it on the cost to the retailer.
Talk about the transit signal priority, and what that
That's
might
probably
look
the more
like.
accurate way, but it ends up being about the same
So
percent.
the US cost times 5% and then adding it.
Oh, it'd be more than 5. I would say that freight is it just to Laredo or is this
Hey, whoever's talking about percentages and
5%.
Laredo, can you
5 or 6? I usually put 6.
Just see.
There we go. They got maybe talked over them, but this is very distracting.
Yeah.
Okay, so the SMART, this is basically the US DOT's, their traffic technology grant program. It is basically focused on what they call demonstration projects. What that means is technologies that aren't necessarily unproven and might be considered research, but not necessarily proven technologies that are widely deployed already in the market. So it's that the technology is kind of in between is what this program is focused on. It is a 2-step program. So that means you cannot apply for capital or implementation without doing the evaluations. That's what stage 1 is. So stage 1 evaluation grant, those could be up to $2 million. The period of performance is expected to be no longer than 18 months. Because of that, because the SMART program, like many of the programs that were authorized in the BIL, it's only authorized for 2026. So what that means is that for the foreseeable future, this is the last opportunity to apply for a stage 1 grant under this program. So there's $50 million available under stage 1. The US DOT has said that they expect about 30 awards this year. So that's about in the past 2 years, I think there's about 30, 35 what they awarded each year. And this is 100% federal funds, so no local match required. Applications are due July 12th. That's 15 calendar days from today. And Joel mentioned that we're very glad we are prepared to assist with this if y'all decide to move forward and put together, help y'all put together a competitive application. We've done this. Of course, we've assisted ORT with the LPP application grant, and we've helped with other clients with the SMART grant as well, including the Mid-America Regional Council in Kansas City that Blake's been involved with. This is, we'll talk about transit signal priority. It is an eligible project. I've counted 6 TSP projects that have been funded by the US DOT through this so far. And I counted, interesting fact, Arkansas, there's no projects have been awarded yet in this program in Arkansas. I think I counted 10 states that have not yet. Next slide, please. So when talking about transit signal priority, in a broad sense, what this might look like for the region, for ORT, and for the cities here is evaluating multiple technologies. So if we focus on the, for instance, the BRX routes between some of the cities, we could look at evaluating one technology in one of the routes, maybe another technology on another route, other cities, so we can evaluate and compare. So as part of that, that would mean looking at quantifiable performance measures like on-time arrival, reliability, travel time, that sort of thing, and then doing a before and after comparison with these technologies. And you can also look at value adds. Maybe there's ancillary technologies, ancillary benefits with maybe one technology that may be stronger than the other technology. So we can look at that as well. And in doing the evaluation, we do want to look at the end goal in mind as part of that. So that would be that stage 2 implementation. So really what we'll be looking at with that evaluation is that, okay, this is going to work. How can we, what's the scalability look like? Can this be deployed at a larger scale in the region. So maybe one technology, maybe that worked well in this area, but if you were to scale it up, could it work with the other cities and communicate with the traffic signals in those areas? And then also looking at this idea of regional coordination. I mean, who would be responsible for this? Who would be the sort of plank point on this? Next slide, please. Okay, so that concludes my part, and I'll turn it over to Blake to talk in more detail about this technology.
Yep, I appreciate that. And thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to be presenting to you today. I want to talk just a little bit about the technology that we've explored, and the one that's come to our attention is that transit signal priority is the one that's of biggest interest there. And for those who may not be familiar, just not knowing who all is in the group there, transit signal priority basically is a connection between the transit vehicles and the traffic signals. And so what happens is as a vehicle approaches a traffic signal, depending on where the signal is in its cycle, it will either extend the green longer than what it normally would have been to allow a transit vehicle to pass through, or it will start that green a little bit earlier if possible, again, depending on where that is in the cycle. So what that does is that allows a little bit faster travel time, reduces the delay that happens sitting at traffic signals for transit vehicles specifically. Some of the benefits of it up in that upper right corner, and I will mention we part of the reason I think we got looped into this is we have had some experience doing this up here in Kansas City for the KCATA up here, and for their Ride KC Max, their BRT program along a few of the corridors that have done this. And one of the things that they really pushed within their organization to say, okay, here's why we want this, is it not only improves schedule adherence, but they were looking for it to be able to maintain the needed headways with a reduced number of vehicles. They wanted to spend less on vehicles. And so that was one of the goals, was to be able to increase the travel time moving through their particular corridor, which is certainly possible given, depending on the length of the corridors and the number of signals that we're able to influence there. We'll go to the next slide. I'll warn you ahead of time, this one has a lot of animation on it, so I'll be prompting you to hit the button here every few minutes. Just a little bit of description of how it works. Now, there are a couple of different systems or types of systems out there. We ended up developing a custom system for KCATA, and that's what I'm highlighting here, but I can describe the way that some of the other commercial off-the-shelf systems work too. There are plenty of others that are out there. So the way that it works is that, go ahead and hit the button there, is that the system, in this case, I think your transit management system for fixed routes, I believe, is Passio. And I did confirm with them that they have some capability to do this as well, where you can identify a geofenced area. And as the vehicle enters that geofenced area, go ahead and hit the button. So it enters the geofenced area, that the equipment on board the vehicle will send a message over wireless to their server. So the Passio server, whatever. And again, this is the Kansas City example. So that for them, it was the Transit Master System. Go ahead and hit the button again. And then what happens is that server will generate a message to say, hey, bus number whatever has entered this geofenced area approaching this intersection. And it includes in that message, here's how many passengers I'm carrying, and here's my on-time status, whether I'm on time, early, late, or very late. And then we developed a little backend system that took that message in, and that TSP server is what we called it. Go ahead and hit the button again. And send a message back out. And this time that message will go back out to the traffic signal. And we, based on the on-time priority and the passenger load, or based on the on-time status and the passenger load, it will send a message to the traffic signal based, and it will be a, in this case, we had a tiered response. So, very late and a heavy passenger load would be a higher priority request than nobody on the vehicle, and running on time would have a very low priority. So go ahead and hit the button again. Yes. So missed this piece. The other thing that we did for Kansas City, so the city itself was very interested in making sure that whatever we did out there didn't interrupt or disrupt traffic more than was absolutely necessary. So we connected up some side street radar to the traffic signals to be able to check, okay, how how queued up are the side streets before we preempt this? And then that had another impact on the priority. So for example, if it's a heavy passenger load and very late, which was a high request, but the side streets are also very congested, then it might lower that priority down just a little bit. So go ahead and hit the button again. Okay, bus travels through. And one more time there. Yep, okay, so that was it. I guess before we get too far past that technology, again, that is one approach. There are the other approaches that we would probably try for the smart grant in order to compare some of these side by side is there's a local version. So for example, there's a piece of equipment, a transmitter that would be on the transit vehicle that would transmit a message via wireless directly to the traffic signal, which would have a receiver on it. That receiver is connected to the traffic signal controller so that as the vehicle approaches, then it says, hey, I'm here, and please grant a request. But none of that information has a on-time status, passenger load. It doesn't account for the side street traffic. But what it does do is it allows you to be able to operate that even if your communications to your traffic signals goes down, for example. So that's a local version. There are other GPS versions that are out there and some newer technologies as well that we would want to explore there. But just to give a couple of examples of how that works. In order for something like this to be effective for the requirements, we'd want to look at side street detectors. And I think this was embedded in some of Joel's questions that he sent out earlier. So side street detection, we would need the opportunity to work with the cities to modify some of the traffic signal timing within the controllers. They can certainly do that with guidance, or they can let us do it, or whatever, or whoever is hired to do the work, I should say, could do that. But there would be some requirements to put in some modifications to the traffic signal controller for accommodation of transit vehicles. There would be a need to be a little bit of configuration by Passio to turn that module on and to get it integrated with whichever system is working. They've integrated both with the local version as well as the software version, which is the one that I showed you. And then depending on which one goes out there, we would also need to be able to communicate with the traffic signals. So those would be the requirements on the side, depending on how we want to approach it. And we can roll some of that in. If some of the intersections, for example, are not connected, we can include some of that work in as part of the stage 1 smart grant application. And so anyway, those are some of the requirements. And then on the hardware side, whether it's GPS based or traditional infrared, there may be some equipment that needs to get installed on the vehicles and at the traffic signals themselves. So those are some of the requirements that y'all would want to sign up for. And next slide. Right, I think Andy, you were going to wrap this one up, right?
Thanks, Blake. Maybe at this point here, a lot of information in a short amount of time. Maybe if we just pause right here, just to see, Joel, if that's okay, if there's any questions from the group that we can help address.
I hope that wasn't overly techie and put you all to sleep there. Sorry if I did that.
I just wanted to make sure that I understand. This is for a planning grant, right? To get some design work done, and what's the scope of the project? Or scope of the grant?
It'd be a planning, or they call it an evaluation grant. So basically the scope would be evaluating one or more technologies and being able to compare and see how they can be scaled up and deployed. And y'all were interested in moving forward with the stage 2 application. So basically it's doing the evaluation, looking at the performance measures and comparing the before and after and the actual implementation of the technologies on certain routes, certain corridors.
Mm-hmm. If I can add to that too, I think this particular grant, the SMART grant program, is for technology evaluation specifically. And I think it certainly has some planning elements to it, but it is in part, it's for implementation. And so stage 1, evaluate the technology you want to use, go put stuff in the field, try it out, see how it works, do some of your programming and have a recommendation. And stage 2 is actually supposed to support full-scale implementation. So it's both planning and implementation.
What relationship do the individual cities have with the grant? Because they're the recipient of information like this study's done, right? My investments is what. So, and I know right now stage one is 100%, federal is, and I don't know what stage two is. Is it an 80-20? Is it a 90-10? That I don't know.
It's 100.
But
It's also 100%, Joel.
it is 100%. So as far as the financial relationship, there is no dedication that's going to have to be provided by the cities. Now, as the relationship to the grant itself and the relationship to each other now, in my mindset, it looks like we've got we've got common technology that's being deployed throughout all 4 major cities. After this thing has been implemented. One of the great things that it would do is it would facilitate the movement of the VRX and would facilitate the movement of what we've been studying internally now is I'll just call it the Springdale Fayetteville connector, which is the same mentality as the VRX. So we're working both of these regional connecting routes, and of course for us to go ahead and be able to move them smoothly along in today's traffic environment in Northwest Arkansas, I think it does absolutely nothing relationally better than getting the city's traffic signal groups communicating better with each other.
I got a couple quick questions.
Yes.
One, you mentioned $22,000 commitment. What is that, Olson's fee, or is that what that is?
Yes, sir. That's the fee for Olson to go ahead and put everything together and get it posted. Well, I'll actually do the posting, but they get everything ready for me to go ahead and post before midnight on the 12th.
Gotcha. And then the amount we would be asking for in this grant application is how much?
We know that yet?
So that would be something that we'll coordinate with you all about to refine exactly, what are, if y'all are interested in looking at 2 technologies or 1 technology, 3 technologies, and, to get confirmation on the routes. And I think if y'all can provide us as much information as possible in a questionnaire, that would help us nail down that dollar amount.
And then, of course, the second round financial cap will be dependent on what we go with as far as implementation, how many buses, how many stoplights, that type of thing.
Okay, I don't remember seeing the questionnaire. Did you send that to the board members? Chris Brown, did you get that?
I sent it to board members Thursday-ish last week.
Okay.
Yeah, I must have missed it, but we can take a look.
Yeah, would you send that as
Yeah.
follow-up on this, Joel? Would you send that again? So we got it at the top of our, assuming we elect to go forward with this.
You got it.
We got it at
And
the top of our.
The other thing I wanted to add, we've had some discussion with Razorback Transit about this issue, so I want to make sure that this all can fit together. I mean, obviously we've got 2 systems running here, so whatever technology we settle on, there needs to be a component of coordination with Razorback Transit as well, if we can get that done.
Okay,
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we've got, thinking about the Springdale Fayetteville connector, you got potentially two cities signal systems we got to coordinate between, and then we got 2 transit systems we got to make sure we're coordinated on as well. So Olson, you guys are up to that challenge, right?
Sir.
Absolutely.
No problem, right?
Piece of
Not
cake.
at all.
Good deal. All right, who else has questions?
Let me ask one, just following up on that. Is it possible to engage with somebody over at Razorback Transit and maybe get a letter of commitment and have them be a partner in part of this too?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think that would be important.
You'll connect them with Adam, Joel?
Oh, yes, sir.
All right, good deal. Other questions? All right, then I will open the table for a motion to support this grant application.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, proceed with that grant application, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, our next item is our financial report. Mindy, razzle dazzle us, please.
All right. All right, we have our May financials here in the packet. In May, our revenue just had a slight unfavorable balance, and that was mainly due to contract revenue that we just had a little less in the month. But you know, it's just less than $1,000. But our expenditures had a positive variance of $3,000. So it's mainly still we have some positive variances in fuel and supplies, which were below budget. Now that was knocked down some because we did have some large repairs in our shop set. We had a couple AC units that had to be replaced and a rear axle assembly, just, you know, as parts are going up and it's hard to find. That was higher in the month. But overall, there was still a favorable balance of just a little less than $3,000 for May. And year to date, we still have a favorable balance of $54,000. Are there any questions? Not going to do that quick, but.
And I do want to comment on Mindy's Mindy's capability of keeping us accountable. Because everything that we have going on a regular monthly basis is always in preparation for things that go oops. So far in this month, when you guys see the next report, this will look quite a bit different because I just signed a PO yesterday for a engine transmission combo at $12,000 for one of our cutaways. And then also a week and a half ago, signed another one for $30,000 for one of our Cummins engines that decided to say bye-bye. You know, all of these items are out of warranty, but then of course, when I take a look at like the combo that I signed for yesterday, we are realizing about 280,000 miles out of these cutaway engine transmission combos. And that's a testament to our maintenance department. But then of course, the capability of us to be able to go ahead and say, yes, we need a new engine, we need a new transmission, or multiples at times, is a testament to Mindy and Taylor's hard work at keeping us accountable to unnecessary expenditures.
Thank you, Mindy. Thank you, Joel. Does anyone have any questions on the financial report? We looking for a motion to approve this, Joel?
Yes, sir.
All right, can I get a motion to adopt or approve the financial report?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, financial report is adopted. Kendall, your turn to razzle dazzle us with some ridership stats.
Well, I'm attempting for Kendall.
Oh no. Okay. All right.
Vacation. Okay, no razzle dazzling going on. I'll do my best. So I'm going to go ahead and focus on two sheets. This first one is in front of you. And this is the ridership summary generally for the organization. Fixed route ridership, we've increased to date 25% on the fixed route on demand, an increase of 17%, and paratransit, a reduction of 8%. All of these things balanced out and come out to a 20% valuation increase. Just so that we can talk briefly about the 8% reduction in ADA paratransit. One of the things that ODT on-demand transit continues to do is it provides people with disabilities that have been regularly, I will say, relegated to having to schedule a trip, having to wait for the trip, that type of thing through ADA paratransit. And ODT gives them that freedom to go ahead and pick and choose when they want to go, where they want to go. ODT for me is a great asset that we have in our toolbox that is helping people move about the area pretty freely. One of the other things I want to highlight is the Route 20 Saturday ridership. We implemented that middle of early part of February, and this thing has just exponentially gone through the roof, and it just demonstrates that there is a need for fixed route services on Saturday. And lo and behold, of course, that's going to be part of a conversation for 2025 when we come to the budget season. But I just want to go ahead and, pre-warm everybody up that fixed route ridership on Saturdays is being used by the community across the board. The Route 20 is the only fixed route that we have on Saturdays at this point in time. And it's a great demonstration route for what we could be doing for ridership growth. The other page I want to go ahead and reflect on is the BRX. Spotlight that one for a bit. One of the cool things that we started tracking just a little bit ago, or started promoting the tracking of, is the number of bicycle passengers. 225 bicycle passengers. So it's being used by all types of riders. We're seeing people use it to go to work, go to entertainment. We're seeing them use it go to downtown one area or the other. And of course, the ridership weight between Bentonville and Rogers is maintains pretty much a 60-40 split right there. And it's curious, the high points, especially when school's not in session, the high points are really staying the same as far as the most used in the top 20 boarding and alighting totals. You see that Bentonville Community Center maintains that #1 slot, and NWAC is constantly maintaining that #2 slot. And even though NWAC hasn't been in session for the last few weeks, it's still a common area for people to go when it's not in full session. I'll say full session. So then, of course, just the typical charts that Kendall's showing, week #1 to week #12, and our exponential growth there. And then, of course, going to the first page of the operating stats, that's just a rehash of the much more detailed layout of everything that I just talked about. Not as good as Kendall, but hopefully a close second.
How many bikes do the bike racks hold again?
Two. So, and one of the things that the entire staff knows is that when those first 2 bicycle racks are full, the reason we've designed the buses the way we have is so that people can bring a #3 and a #4 on board. The only stopping point to bicycles on the inside is the bike racks have to be full first. And if somebody in a mobility device gets on board, the bicycles have to give up their slot.
Okay, is there any talk on seeing any capacity issues with that as of yet?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. And no action is needed on the statistic, ridership statistics.
Joel, I have a couple quick questions.
Yes,
I see Rogers, that slide you were just showing, Rogers and Bentonville overall percents were down. Help me understand, or help us understand that a little bit.
On the percentage,
Percentage in the green, percent increase negative for Rogers and Bentonville.
in the green.
On the first page.
Go back to the
middle
first
that
page.
hand-
There's-
Right there, see?
Right there.
Oh. Sure. Okay, yeah, we had a full week of, I would say, limited ridership due to the storm. We were, and here's a really cool thing about ODT. So that storm, I mean, it pretty much shut down the BRX for a week. Because roads were not passable. I mean, the place was just a mess. And as Rogers and Bentonville started cleaning everything up, it got a little bit better, and especially that week following, we were 100% back in action. But during this week, we pivoted everything to on-demand transit, and we provided some, I will say, some really important rides through the on-demand transit because we had those zones set up, those zones were established, we were able to take the drivers, put them in the smaller vehicles. The first 2 days, 3 days, we put two ORT employees per vehicle. That way, if a call was made for an ODT trip from an address, and the vehicle had to stop at some point in time, the second person could get out via navigator and determine whether the street was passable or not. So that did a significant impact on it.
Hey, Joel, this
Sure.
is Jesse. If I could just also elaborate, I mean, it's a good question, but I have both an office in downtown Rogers that doesn't exist anymore from the storm, as well as bike shops and a bunch of properties in downtown Bentonville. And I can tell you, it wasn't just when the storm happened, or even what Joel's saying, all of the traffic, people coming to town that sometimes and occasionally ride transit, people that live in both areas. There's just like bike trails are closed. People are canceling trips here. Locals are not getting out and about as much. It's just starting to kind of get back to some kind of normalcy. So I would assume confidently that there's probably at least 3 to 4 weeks where everything regarding transportation, people driving their cars, people working from home because offices aren't even open. You got a lot of buildings, and especially in Rogers, like warehouses, people that work in warehouses and so forth, where warehouses are having to relocate. People aren't working or having to, like, there's all this kind of shift of, we'll call it transportation, logistics, getting to work, everything else. It had to temporarily happen because of trees down and so forth, but damaged buildings. So not just, again, bike community or people coming into town, which is less. There's a lot of people, I know a lot of workers, actual workers that use our transit that haven't had work because of the storms. People that are going through stuff with their houses that had just different kinds of things going on. House cleaners that didn't have houses to clean temporarily because of all the issues. So I think there's a kind of an underlying thing just with the storms that cause for just a lack and need of some transportation or people that ride transportation. But I've just seen so many different things when it comes to, we'll call it Northwest Arkansas logistics, negatively affected in Bentonville and Rogers. So I don't know if that helps at all.
And Walnut Street was shut down by a week.
Yeah.
A little more. So that's right where our BRX route goes. So it was definitely a factor. And the signals were down. Road was covered in debris. Very much there.
And if you look at week 12 versus week 6, week 6 was week 7 was the week that NWAC went out of session for their transition from the spring session to the summer session. Then 2 weeks after that is week 9 is the storm, and then we're right back where we were before those two impacting situations. Number one being NWAC stepping out away from their schedule, and number 2 being the storm. And then we're right back in action.
So back on that that green line that I was looking at, if you could go back up just a couple of pages, right there. Okay, so that's the green there, percent increase. And it says that's through May. So I'm assuming that's through the end of May. And you got it broken down for each of the cities and then the total for the ORT system. So that's on demand and fixed route and paratransit. I hear you on what happened the last week in May in Rogers and Bentonville, but to me, those couple of days would not be the result of an 18% and a 13% respective decrease between the two cities. So is something else going on in Rogers and Bentonville that drive ridership down so significantly? Is that
again, I would just restate, again, my confidence level is pretty high. I have just a lot of investments in Northwest Arkansas, and a lot of my laborers that some percentage of them would use transportation, just as examples, did not have work, and were asking either for me or people reaching out to me if I had anything they could do, build fences, anything, because they're normal jobs that they would, again, take transportation, get transportation, or drive to, did not exist temporarily. So again, I might be wrong, but this is not just one person. I'm talking to you about conversations with probably 20 different people on the laborer side that didn't have a job to go to that normally did.
Yeah, I'm
a
not
lot of the people,
disputing any of that, Jesse. And the point I'm trying to make is this data is through the end of May, and what you're talking about happened at the end of May, and
True.
those trips are not necessarily reflected on this report. So something happened before that. That's what I'm curious
Okay.
about. Is that the switch from on demand to the BRX, Joel, or what else? What's going on here that's driven those numbers down so much
And
between
I'll
those two
have
cities?
I'll have to dig into that, and I'll bring up the previous month's report. You know, if Kendall was here, he'd be able to have that report ready for us right away. But I'll bring up the previous month's report and see where we stood in Rogers and Bentonville last month at the same time as we are this month, or yeah, the previous month at the same time as opposed to this month at the same time. So look at you know, end of the year through April and then end of the year through May. And I do not believe that end of the year through April had a negative number in it. But I'll follow up on that.
Yeah, because with what Jesse's saying is in fact true, then you know the next time we see this ridership report through July or whatever, the numbers are going to get worse if if ridership in Bentonville and Rogers was affected so significantly by the storms. So yeah, I'm a little curious about the nuance and the detail that's happening there.
Yeah, I'll get it figured out and get an answer to you hopefully within the next couple of days, especially after Kenny gets back from vacation.
All right.
Because all this data sits on his computer, and he's the one who can easily access it and easily do a comparison.
Gotcha. Who else has questions about the ridership report?
Well, I was just going to ask if we could, is there a way to break it down by week or something so we could see kind of where the low weeks were?
For all systems or just in Rogers and Bentonville?
Oh, just in the Rogers and Bentonville.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Just for this month and the last one, I was just curious as to where the numbers dropped in the month. I'm not saying we have to do that on a regular basis.
Okay. We'll get
Imagine if you do that, you'll probably see that storm impact that Jesse was referencing pretty starkly.
Good. And Bobby's saying that during that storm period, we did have, how did you say it?
We had shifts that had 0 passengers during
Okay,
the driver's entire shift. It was common to have 1 or 2 during an entire shift.
during that storm period, so. All right, we'll get a comparison, a better comparison that tells a better story.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, we're ready, I think, for our social media update.
And that's gonna be Lakeisha and Jeff. So prior to Lakeisha talking, I just want everybody to know we did a restructuring here in the office. And I've got a communications department that we've kind of put under media, social media, all media and communications, and have been evaluating the 3 people that are in that department now for quite some time, and that's Lakeisha, Jeff, and Erica. Made an offer for Lakeisha to go ahead and be the department head, and she has graciously accepted it. It is the communications department now, and her official title is communications director, and we have a marketing and social media manager underneath that, and a media and public information manager underneath that. So I think I got all the titles correct. But Lakeisha is top dog now in the communications department. So take it.
Yeah. So I'm here to provide an update in regards with Erica's absence. And so this is in regards to the marketing summary. And so I'm just going to hit some high key points. Additional information is available within her detailed marketing overview. And so in general, the overall marketing message for the last 2 months had to be pivoted
due to the recent, the natural disaster with the tornado. So, they did make some, pivots during that process of our communication, but overall, the ambassadors, with a huge call out, shout out to them as they helped spread the information, on the different services, the changes with the closures, detours, and just overall connecting with the community during this time frame. And so that was a huge asset in helping to support that. Now, in regards to the community events, social media growth, writer actions and emails, had attended 6 community events that tapped into multiple, new and current demographics throughout the social media. And you'll see more details within that. We have more engagements within that. And then as we look at the emails and the interactions, in regards to that, service, we did expand our services to the Children's Hospital. We have a request for that to expand the service to the Children's Hospital or near Harvard High. Also called out that we did receive a number of emails regarding the on-demand payment system, but we resolved those as they came to light. In regards to marketing materials to help create awareness around ORT, some of the things that the team has done, Erica created a huge collaboration in partnering with Retro, which is a brand designed by Rogue, who is the marketing director with Interpol. And so we have some swag. If you can go on the last page, you can see some of the swag that was even given out at the Crystal Bridges momentary intern mixer recently held this past month. In addition to that, were the buttons, pins that were created for the chai time that we that was held in Bentonville about a week ago. And in addition to that, new bilingual flyers that were created. One of the key highlights that she wanted to call out was 3 ways to engage. So asking as our board members, remember this: follow, stop, and snap. Okay, follow, stop, and snap. So follow us on social media. So like, share, and comment on our posts. Stop. So if you are aware of upcoming events that we have going on out there, you've seen the ORT booth, stopping by, and also snapping a picture. So if you see cool engagements outside in the community or just the ORT bus helping to create that awareness, so snap those pictures with us. And so if you want to read more detail of the information, she does have that provided within that. And so that's an overall marketing overview. And then just a quick highlight and update on the arts, culture, and wellness piece. Each of you should have this quick slide that gives a little bit of what we've been doing from February up until now, but I just want to focus on within the next to last page that gives a whole overview of really this mission of Ride and Work in 2024. And so one of the key things within the arts, culture, and wellness piece was the mobile art gallery. So from February up to now, we've had a little over 1,000 impressions of people being able to see and engage within the art that we have. We've done 2 gallery on wheels, one in Fayetteville, and we're gonna have another one coming up actually this weekend with the Jack and Jill organization at Fayetteville, the theater outside area. So it's gonna be a mobile art gallery, but also a sensory station utilizing our bus. In addition to that, 17 local artists' artworks are displayed. So part of this mobile art gallery experience, people can actually ride the bus, actually engage with the local artist's artwork, scan a QR code, and then they can even purchase the art from the artist within there. Community engagements within the Ride More in 2024. We've had several engagements from Fayetteville App School to the Black Business Expo, U of A Fashion Show, all the way down to we have the Jack and Jill Summer Explosion that is coming up this weekend. From a wellness perspective, we are really excited about the program that we have here with the ORT Employee Wellness Program, because it's very important to keep in mind the well-being of our employees, from the drivers, maintenance crew, to our back office team. And so we launched the Art Rejuvenation Program in partnership with Mighty by Design, where we currently have 11 participants in this program. And that's since the April announcement. So really excited about the work that's being done. A huge shout out, highlight to the communications team of the great work that's being done right now. So that's all. I'm gonna turn it over to Jim.
So, I'm gonna start giving my report, in terms of events that we've had since our last board meeting and then upcoming events, between now and our next board meeting, if that's okay. So in early May, we worked in shifts, to man a information booth at Tyson and Berry Street. And the reason why I included that is because in 2014, when we were doing some workforce, routes, there we would go to the break rooms and set up a booth, and really basically nobody would talk to us, because they're busy taking a break. This time they set up a booth, and Erica set this up. They set up a booth right next to the time clock, so they had to come by. And we got quite a few good questions and sent out some good information. In the middle of May, I gave a report to the Benton County Forum of Court as part of their annual nonprofit presentation session. There's a lot of good questions came out of that, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more coming up. Also in mid-May, I attended and briefly spoke at a Dr. Lowell Chambers event. It's called the Monthly Downtown Retailers Association, and I'm going to start attending that every month because they're obviously very interested in getting people from outside of the downtown area to the downtown area to spend money in the downtown. Was a keynote speaker at a monthly Northwest Arkansas marketing luncheon on May 21st. I manned the booth with Lakeisha mentioned at the Chi Time meeting that emphasized transportation with the group from the Rabe, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Rabe Cultural Center in Bentonville, which is the Eastern Asian Indian population that's prevalent in Bentonville. Coming up in July 1st, we're going to host state legislators here in this room. For those state legislators that we invited to ride the BRX on our inaugural day, and they couldn't for whatever reason. And the reason why I mentioned the Benton County Forum of Court, to be mentioned later, is because they had a lot of good questions about things, and so we've invited the entire group of JPs to also attend that presentation here. One thing I forgot to mention, in June, we shot a video with the Walmart group. Didn't even write this down in my daily planner, but it was a group with Walmart who were very interested in promoting all forms of intermodal transportation, including public transit, for the upcoming opening of the entire Walmart home office campus. So they shot video for their internal groups, and they had a bicycle that goes on our typical bicycle rack. Typical bicycle, some folded bicycles, some long skateboards, a motorized scooter, and several different things like that to just promote that just because there's only 2 bicycle racks, there's other ways of riding the bus, given space that Joel referenced. On August 16th, we are scheduled to launch the Solar System Adventure Project. I mentioned that before. It's basically just going to be some vinyl cleaning on the back of some existing bus stop signs. It's going to be a scale model that goes on for 2 miles, centered at the Springdale Public Library with a 3-dimensional representation of the sun with all the planets. And it's going to extend all the way to the Jones Center using existing bus stop signs. We're going to launch that on August 16th. We've already got the pavilion reserved for that. And Lakeisha, I haven't been here in a few days. Where do we stand on the sun?
Yeah.
So wait, okay. The Manning School with the Springdale Public School System is working on that three-dimensional render. As far as the blind spot awareness campaign, we're still in discussions with the Amazium. A couple different campaigns. One is going to be the Halloween on October 25th as part of a group of vendors. But we're also looking to solidify a weekly Wednesday evening event called Community Spotlight, where we will be the lone vendor in that. And then on the horizon, we're doing a booth at the Fayetteville Botanical Gardens in September for the Veterans Healthcare System of the Ozarks. That'll be our 2nd year in a row doing that. And then other blind spot awareness campaigns, events in different stages of completion, but everything seems to be shuffling into the month of October, which actually works out well since it is a safety campaign and we've got a lot of little kids that's going to be out there trick or treating and things. So, and then Lakeisha mentioned the Jack and Jill event coming up this Saturday, and that's what I got.
Thank you.
What was the, quick question, what was the date that you mentioned for the legislators coming to ORT?
July 1st.
July 1st, all right, next week. Okay. Any other questions on the social media or any other communications activities? Okay, let's move on to item 10, adoption of community engagement subcommittee minutes, or is that what did we also just receive that?
I can give a quick summary of the meetings. So it looks like Lakeisha and Jeff kind of went over the events that were discussed in that a little bit, like the mobile art gallery and things that nature, which sounds like all are going really well. We also discussed a portion of the U.S. Department of Transportation's policy practices for meeting public involvement. And there were a few primary items on that stuck out. That were Appendix B that listed techniques for meaningful involvement. And there was some discussion about an interest in having hotlines that allow people to call in and leave voice messages, and maybe different options to be provided to allow people to leave a message for a specific route or city service. And I don't know if that's been brought up before, but I guess we're just curious about the feasibility of doing something like that, or at least looking into it to see if that could be implemented in the future down the line once we get more people and more routes who are trying to call in about it and stuff to help with that capacity. We also talked about maybe trying to have more interactive displays or kiosks that can be placed in different locations along routes, and that can maybe be done in partnership with ambassadors and everything to have more of those up that just kind of have brochure information, maybe a place for people to write down any comments, whether positive or negative, about what they're experiencing on the route, and place them in a box or something that's picked up every so often, just through that up there. With the cost of the kiosks, maybe some budget restrictions was brought up about that, so that may be something to discuss as well. And then the importance of making sure that each city is if they have this on their GIS layer, but updating any routes that we have to make sure that's being reflected, because that's also important for just development and allowing developers and property owners to see what's going along properties that they're interested in developing on. So maybe it can be a point of discussion to talk about having transit stops and making sure that we're getting spaces for stuff like that along those future developments. So that's about everything that I got.
Okay, thanks, Zach. Now, I see we have a question from Sarah Moore. Go ahead, Sarah.
Thank you, Peter. From the previous discussion, I don't know if I missed it. I'd heard that there was a presentation to Benton County, and I didn't know if there was a plan to present or to go and address the Quorum Court in Washington County, knowing that they had decided not to participate in their route. They are going to be starting their budget process in the county. And I know, for instance, I think the numbers for their ridership from that previous year, the majority of folks were getting to things like doctor's appointments. And now that we're experiencing the heat wave that we are, most of the cooling shelters in Washington County are not in the rural areas. And so those folks don't have access even to get on a bus system to be able to get in. And so I wanted to just see if there was an update on possibly going to present to Washington County.
I am right now assigning Jeff that charge of communicating with Washington County and getting them here.
Thank you, Joel. I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any other questions? All right, I'm looking for a motion on adoption of the community engagement subcommittee minutes.
So moved.
Okay.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, those minutes are adopted. We'll move on to item number 11, an open discussion on transit successes and opportunities in our respective communities. Who has anything on that?
Kent or Zach, you guys want to talk about the elevated platform?
Yeah, we are working on a road diet along Nickel Hills Parkway and in Rogers, kind of just west of the interstate. So right now we've got 3 or 4 roundabouts in the works, and then we'll be extending bike lane connections to the north, almost to New Hope. But as part of that, we have 2 transit stops on the BRX, and we've had some discussions about incorporating raised platforms, which would elevate to the sidewalk level. It'd be a ramp up for bicyclists, then ramp back down, but it'd be a level boarding area for transit passengers. And we're also having discussions about additional right-of-way needs and for the addition of transit shelters. So we're, as we have opportunities, we're starting to really focus on incorporating transit or projects as well as large scale developments and development in general.
I think as far as successes too, just the response during the storm and after transitioning to on demand and being quick about it and being quick getting back the fixtures back up, I think was just phenomenal. So
Thank you.
Would it also be appropriate in this portion of the agenda to ask Tim Revis to give us an update on his funding formula?
That was going to be first line item on the executive director's report.
Oh, sorry to jump the gun on that. I apologize.
No worries. No worries.
Well, then, any other open discussion on successes or opportunities? Okay, we'll turn it over to Joel or Tim.
So I'll go ahead and do the introduction. If anybody doesn't know him, Tim Revis, Northwest Arkansas Regional Planning Commission. One of the things that we've already decided to do is to put the NWA RPC on as a regular standing item during our board meeting agendas, and it would come probably right around after adoption of the board meeting minutes from the previous board meeting. We'll have a standing order in there for updates from Regional Planning Commission. And if they have something, they can take the time necessary. We can share the information. If they don't have anything, it's pass. So I think that's a good idea because more and more as they're getting engaged, everybody's getting engaged with each other. I think it's just a wise thing to do to have you guys as part of the standing order. Go ahead, Tim.
Great, thanks, and appreciate the invitation to be on the agenda moving forward. This is an update on discussions that are happening with the 5307 split. And so I want to emphasize this is an update, informational, educational, and anytime this comes before you in the future, it'll be for informational and just an update. You'll never be asked to make a vote to approve or accept the split because that's a regional planning commission action item, not ORT. So just clarifying that front. Next slide. There we go. Yeah. So Northwest Arkansas Regional Planning Commission is the term is designated recipient for the 5307 FTA funds. Arkansas and Missouri governors did that back in 2013, shortly after we became a TMA. So both governors said, regional planning, you're it. You're making the decisions for this sub-allocated funding. There hasn't been a formal methodology in how regional planning has split this funding. For a long time, it's been 55% of whatever the allocation is goes to ORT, 45% of it goes to Razorback Transit. Both ORT and Razorback are, and the term is direct recipients of FTA. So, you both meet, and there's a list of rules and regulations you have to follow. Both are federal direct recipients. So both provide transit service to the general public. Both are eligible to receive funds. So to get an idea of how much funding we're talking about, right now it's about $4 million each year. So looking at how the FY24 dollars shake out with that split, and this is going to get approved here soon. 2.2 to ORT, 1.8 to Razorback. That's with this current 55-45 split. But as the region is growing, as transit is going to become more necessary, we've got to come up with a way to have some logic and some reason behind how to split this money. And so the policy committee directed regional planning staff to do some research, digging in, look at some formulas. And also they expressed concern that, hey, Northwest Arkansas is a regional economy. We'd like for there to be some consideration for that in it. So next slide. This is how the federal government, this is the formula the federal government uses to distribute the funding to all regions around the country. These are the measures that they look at when deciding Northwest Arkansas gets $4 million. So they're looking at population density, the urban area population, and then vehicle revenue miles. And then they also have an efficiency metric in there. They want to know, how efficient the system is. So they look at operating costs, and then how many trips are you getting out of that operating costs. So this was the starting point for us. We think that this is a fair way of looking at the split. Because this is how the money's coming to them. So it's an easy way to start. There's a lot of regions around the country that use just one-for-one federal formula. And then there's several that modify it a little bit. There's some that come up with their own thing totally. It's totally separate and different than this. But for us, this has a lot of fairness to it, especially with the operating cost per unlinked trip, the vehicle revenue miles. So because vehicle revenue miles, that's however many vehicle revenue miles ORT runs, plus how many vehicle revenue miles Razorback runs is what is used to determine the allocation to our region. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this has just kind of been a starting point. It's what's being discussed. There is no vote at regional planning scheduled for this to look at this formula. But we think this is a good place to have some discussion around. We are proposing to keep the efficiency metric in there like for like. We're proposing that population density and population remain kind of at the same proportion as the federal formula. And on my last slide, you don't need to go back, but I didn't have in there 50% of that sort of 90% is vehicle revenue miles. But we're just as a starting point saying, hey, let's have vehicle revenue miles from our fixed route account for this particular metric. And then we're proposing a new metric called regional vehicle revenue miles. this captures kind of that directive from the board that, hey, the formula needs to show that we are a regional economy. Let's account for some of that. So there would be a separate metric to capture things like the Rogers Bentonville connector. There would be, the 490 route, would the vehicle revenue miles from that would get captured by this metric. Right now, Razorback does not have any regional vehicle routes. So they don't have any vehicle revenue miles that would get plugged into that metric. And I also want to point out on the 35% of the vehicle revenue miles, fixed route only. So, you know, on demand routes, the vehicle revenue miles under this proposal, you would not be getting any credit for on federal dollars coming to the we at the commission, you know, we're looking at regional, you know, a regional concept, and on demand is really, I use the term hyper local. It stays within that same city. Those zones are servicing residents just in that city. So with fixed route, yes, there are fixed routes that run just within the same city, but it has a different purpose. Okay, that's the breakdown of the formula. Next slide. Yeah, a couple of things I kind of already iterated. By having a separate metric for regional vehicle revenue miles, this could offer some incentive to have those routes. Y'all have mentioned in this meeting already, potentially a Fayetteville Springfield connector. So, you know, this metric would support that shift. And then going back into the fairness by using the federal formula and how they come to the region, we think that's pretty good. And then next slide. So we did a exercise to say, well, what if this formula had been in place this last year? What would the breakdown have been? So ORT and Razorback both submit information to FTA that comes out in these agency profiles. So, you know, we have a verifiable way that we get information like vehicle revenue miles, how many unlinked trips, what was your operating cost? And so we plugged these numbers into the formula, and it was very similar to what the current 55-45 split is. Yeah, we didn't know how it would come out when we first started. So, you know, a pro of this is maintaining the similar level of service here initially is not going to have a huge effect on city budgets. So, we think that's a positive. It also, by at least adopting a formula, you know, it kind of sets the stage for us to be able to implement different, you know, transit policies that, you know, the region wants to move forward with, having a formula as a baseline to start with. So this is, like I said, this is not on the agenda for a vote yet. We're having discussions with a subcommittee, and we're talking to, had conversations with Joel, having conversations with Razorback. So this is just informational. Here's what we're talking about. Tim, do you want to add anything? Do you have any comments?
Once again, you mentioned it to both Razorback Transit and those are Regional Transit Authority, our direct recipients at FTA. Just a little background, Razorback Transit has been receiving federal funds for 3 decades. Just wanted to share that with everybody. Prior to, there's 2 ways the money gets decided who gets federal transit funds in the United States. Areas that are under 200,000 urban area population. It's the governor's allocation or who they, what department they decide to split the money. RDOT is that entity for areas under 200,000. And for every area, urban area in the United States under 200,000, the governors have to decide a designated recipient. As the designated metropolitan planning organization, regional planning, we have the responsibility to do the long-range transportation planning and transportation improvement programming, all federal funds. Then as the FTA designated recipient, we have the responsibility to do the program of projects and decide the split. And so it's the at regional planning, we have the 31 cities in Benton and Washington County, the 2 counties in Arkansas, we have a small portion of McDonald County, Missouri, Pineville and Jane. However, we don't have transit in Pineville and Jane, but the population within that urban area is what, as you saw in the formula, population density, vehicle revenue miles, or the metrics or the information that's being used to generate that $4 million for service. That's all I have.
So we can, happy to talk here. Also, I am always available if anybody just wants to, go through the formula, talk more. Happy to do that.
I have a quick question. Sorry, I was reading while you were presenting that, and you might have covered it. On the population, oh, well, you took it down. Let's see. I can't remember what it said. That was the top orange line, the population served and the percentage. So is that based on just the fixed routes, or you're also calculating the on-demand area? Did you say that? Sorry.
I didn't say that. That's off of the fixed route.
Okay.
So we've got it's called Remix software platform, and ORT and Razorback have their fixed routes in that system, and that system pulls in census numbers, so we can easily say, okay, how many people live within, and we're using the number 3/4 of a mile from a bus stop to determine if the population is served. That has to do with the paratransit range. So
Okay.
it's fixed route.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Will we get a copy of this for reference?
Happy to provide that.
So I think it's very good to go through the example. I'm just wondering, have you started going through examples
So
of how certain communities might grow or whatever? Does it stay balanced? Does it show? How's it grow?
well, that's a good point.
That's the formula we haven't seen.
Is
It confirms what we're at, got based on your assumptions right now. It's like,
so what I would point out is the vehicle revenue miles 2022 in this proposal, and how it comes to the region, that's a pretty substantial amount. And if you'll go back one more slide, actually 2 more. And how it comes to the region, that's 50% of the 90%. So to speak, is how I'm framing it here. It's still going to be 35%. So let's say, for example, Razorback Transit gets a big influx of local dollars and can run significantly more vehicle revenue miles, more routes, more frequency, then their vehicle revenue mile share here is going to go up. And so it'll raise their overall split that they get if their metric in that sense goes up.
is there a revenue difference between Razorback and they have a revenue stream coming in from university?
They have student fees that account for large portion of their local dollars. Is it $4 a credit hour? Is that what we saw this morning?
Like over $4. Looked it up this morning. I was curious.
That question
Yeah, so I picked it up this morning and, they have adjusted it over time. And in the past year, they adjusted it from, it's 362, I believe, to 462 per credit hour. So it's like $1 increase for the 24-25 upcoming school year. In the past, just in my little 20-minute research, looked like sometimes it'd be updated every 2 or 3 years, 5 or 10 cents. But they had this large increase. When I looked at it a few years ago, it was approximately $2 million on a lower fee. So I'm not sure. Got 30,000 students. Not sure how many credit hours we're taking now. So could be, I say substantial, but also hear your reports at ORT and see on the Razorback buses what it costs to keep it on higher CDL bus drivers. So costs have increased too, which would, impact how many vehicle revenue miles you can put on.
Yeah, he's back up. All right, any further discussion? Yes, ma'am.
So of that 25%, they talked about the population, within like 3/4 of a mile, is it considering like unhoused hubs? Individuals are no.
It's just whatever the census has. It's the way that it's whatever.
Is it just the decennial census?
The American, it's the community survey, the ACS.
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay, so it updates with numbers every time those get updated.
Yes.
All right, you back with us, Peter?
Yeah, sorry about that. My Wi-Fi dropped. I did have a quick question. Have we gotten any for the Tims? Have y'all gotten any feedback from Razorback Transit on this yet? Have you discussed it with them? Any thoughts you could share with the board in terms of their response or reaction?
We had an initial briefing about this discussion with Razorback. They asked for the spreadsheet to kind of do some of their own, I guess, what if type analysis. But they haven't issued any kind of formal comment about it. But we have spoken, and they are aware of the discussion.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions or comments on this? Tim, when do you have, I guess one more question, do you have a sense of schedule in terms of when you're planning on bringing this back to the policy committee for discussion and or a vote?
There's, no target date yet to bring it into the TAC or policy committee. The next step is once we get comments from Razorback, we'll pull the subcommittee back together to talk about those and any other thing that comes up between now and then. Potentially talk about a recommendation to TAC after that if it's written.
Okay.
I expect to hear back from Razorback, in the next week or so.
Okay.
All right, next. So next on my executive director's report, just quick brief on the charging, fueling, and infrastructure grant application. We made application for that last year in round one. Did not get any funding for the 17 charging / fueling infrastructure locations that we had identified. But come to find out, we were considered a highly recommended for round two. What highly recommended meant was that we did not have to restructure anything as far as the original grant. Basically had to turn in name, address, and yes, I want to go ahead and be considered for number 2. Weirdest grant reapplication that I think I've ever seen. It was 3 bullet point questions that were 10 words or less each on the answers, and got accepted back in for consideration on round 2. So that was done Thursday of last week. And of course, these are always 4 to 6 months before we hear a peep out of anybody on them. So hoping we can take those original 17 locations and put some charging / fueling infrastructure in Northwest Arkansas on the community side, not on the corridor side. Item number 2 is the annual financial audit. We appear to bounce from one audit to another one all the time. This is our annual financial. We've started it. David Eaton from Shivitz and Associates is supposed to be on board here within the month. Questionnaires have already been sent out to us, and I think a couple of board members already, regarding financial, I believe it's considered financial improprieties. So answer those honestly. I don't know who's gotten those questionnaires, and I'm not supposed to know who's got those questionnaires. So please answer those as honestly as you possibly can. One of the things that's come up is I've been invited to be a part of a speaking engagement on July 22nd through the 24th. It's the Council of State Governments Southern Office, CSG Southern Region. And their annual conference is going to be in West Virginia. They've invited me to come out and talk about on-demand transit. One of the great things about this is that there's going to be legislators from the state of Arkansas there. And our commentary that we're looking at is on-demand transit, what it's going to take to have this type of infrastructure assets in a community, and how well does it work. We're being paired up with another conversation called Urban Air Mobility. Urban Air Mobility is using existing airways, air travel airways in I'll call it a hover type of craft that can move people and products. They're working on products first before they start moving people. And of course, the conversations were really built around things like moving hearts from one airport to another airport for emergency access to heart transplants, that type of thing. So, and then of course, eventually it'll grow into urban air taxis. But right now we are paired up with another unique transportation mode, and it should be a good conversation. One of the things I want to talk about the July 1st conversation with Benton County legislative leaders. That's both at the state level and the county level. There's 3 things that I'm going to be spotlighting personally after we get done with the general introduction and general information. One is the proposed bill for the next state legislative session that is a yield to transit law, which goes ahead and protects transit vehicles and allows us to post signage on the back of the transit vehicles that say you must yield to the transit vehicle to get it in and out of traffic. The other one is a bill for an assault on a transit official. There's already a bill that's out there that talks about assaults on transit officials, but we're looking to make it a little sterner to have it actually be a felony class. What felony class we can get after is still up for debate. But right now, if somebody throws a rock at the head of a transit person, an official, whether it's a road supervisor or a driver, we have to petition, according to the existing bill, to have it elevated, where this would be, it's immediately considered, and it's mirrored after the assault on medical personnel, post-COVID medical personnel, and it's mirrored after that, where it's an immediate felony. As soon as you throw a rock at my head, that's a felony. In the existing bill, we have to petition it to be a higher, stronger assault level. And we have to prove that the individual knew that they were throwing a rock at my head. So there's just a lot of really loose language in there that I'm looking to get tightened up. And then also, I've been on a couple of conference calls over the last month with other states, other transit agencies, organizations about funding at a state level. of all the states that I've had these conversations with, I've been the only one representing Arkansas, where Arkansas does not have state funding going to any of their transit. Now, I'm going to walk you through this a little bit. There is a public transportation department within the Arkansas Department of Transportation. They manage the federal funds 5311 and 5310, which is rural transit and seniors and people with disabilities transit. They also manage a car tax that is put on rental cars, but that's shared between transit and teachers. That's a 20-year-old car tax, the rental car tax that's been out there. But the other states that I've communicated with have all had designated funding from the state coffers going to public transit. And one of the people brought up a crazy idea of, well, your state's got a great surplus. Why don't you just ask for 2% of the surplus on an annual basis? And it's flexible, it's fluid. I believe the last time I looked at a state surplus, it was somewhere around 1.6 billion in the state surplus. And that would be $32 million going to 8 rural and 8 urban transit systems throughout the state. That's going to be my push in a conversation. This is a great place for me to debut it on July 1st as a conversation and see where we can take it from there. And then, of course, that'll fluctuate from year to year. Some years there may not be a state surplus, so there's no transit money coming, but some years there's a great state surplus, so it would be something going to transit. I'm not looking for anything new. At the state level, I'm looking for what's in the existing funding streams. So that's a conversation I'll be having with the state legislators, and of course there'll be Benton County legislators there, or Benton County, legislators, I guess, and former court officers there. And then upcoming events, ORT is going to be closed on the 4th of July. We've got the Southwest Transit Association Summer University that's going on July 29th through 31st. And then, of course, if necessary, executive committee meeting on the 25th of July. And then the next ORT board meeting is on the 22nd of August. Questions, comments, or concerns?
Joe?
Sure.
There's several folks in the room that I've been talking with about this, but we've got areas of persistent poverty, bus stop enhancement, design and engineering grant that Olson is helping us with. So there's just an update on that. We've got several bus stops as candidates to be improved under this. We're trying to get that finalized, working with some of you all on that, but we're excited to get that work going soon. And then regional planning is just about to sign a contract with a consultant, WSP, to do a transit alternatives study, which is going to look at high capacity transit options in the region. So there'll be more information to come on that as it gets going, but just making you aware of it. It's a pretty exciting project, and that's going to feed into our 2050 MTP long range transportation plan.
Beautiful. I've got marching orders for things to clean up from this board meeting. Hopefully have that to you by Monday or Tuesday. And then I'll get the questionnaire from Olson resent out to everybody to put it at the top of their email list. And make sure that we communicate with Razorback on the connections for the SMART grant also.
All right. Thanks, Joel.
Yes, sir.
Any other business that we have? All right, hearing none. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
All right, all those in support say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okie doke. Y'all have a great rest of your Thursday. Thank you, everyone.
Everybody have a safe 4th of July. Thanks, Peter, for hosting or for chair.